April 13th, 2025. I am doing this quick video live stream to go over my experience today with the explosion that made national news here in Austin, Texas. A mysterious home explosion in a ritzy neighborhood in North Austin. I'm going to be showing some videos and photos of what I took and share my story and some stories of neighbors that I talked to in the immediate area of this explosion. You can see here the house that was involved is completely flattened. I live about 2 miles away, and this morning, I guess around 11:30, we heard a massive explosion. Now, I'm 2 miles away. I am told by other people, including people that were on site here this evening, that they lived as far as 10 or 20 miles away and heard the explosion. I can't even imagine what the neighbors in the immediate proximity felt. It must have felt like a literal bomb going off right outside your house. And, you know, when I arrived on scene here this morning, around the time the fire trucks were arriving, there were 24 homes damaged, siding blown off of them, garage doors, metal garage doors caved in, windows blown out, front doors blown off the hinges into the house. And the odd thing was, not a lot, you know, there's no fire here in this particular explosion. There was a explosive, I don't want to say mushroom cloud, but, you know, a lot of confusion this morning because at first it wasn't obvious and not everyone knew what happened, where it happened, and there was no smoke and there was no fire other than very localized. You know, fire department, when they found the address, there were a couple very tiny fires that were put out real quick. Here on the right, we can see, sorry, to the left, you can see the neighbor's house. And I think there was one gentleman at home in this house. By the way, this is not a gas explosion either. There is no natural gas service and no propane in this neighborhood. So it is still a bit of a mystery what happened here. This was new construction, and the family that had moved in this house recently just moved in. I was told that the husband was home and that the wife and kids, thankfully, were still in their own, you know, their old home. And the gentleman that was in the house has apparently been transported to the hospital this morning. And then the neighbor here to the left, at least one person was injured in this house and also extricated by the fire department and taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Let me see what other photos I have here. When I pulled up on the scene this morning, you can see a lot of people standing around trying to figure out what was happening. Here's a house maybe 200-300 feet away. The screen door was blown off. All these windows are blown in. Front garage doors just caved in. Front door blown off. Windows blown away. And that was my very first photo, as close as I could get this morning of the house. So this was literally right after it happened. You can see there's not really any fire. Good evening, Anya. Thanks for joining in. Let's see what other photos we got here. Another photo from the street. This is later in the day once the emergency crews had cleared out and I wasn't going to get in anybody's way. Two photos of the house, and I got, this is the neighbor's driveway. It's just littered with black chunks of roof and insulation. Part of a roof in the neighbor's yard. This was from the back of the affected property. I walked around the back of the house. The street will be on the other side of this debris pile. And this is another view from the back of the house. Stuff up in the trees here. I am frankly just shocked that all of these trees are still standing, to be honest. With the force of this explosion, behind this house is another house. I don't think I got a photo of it. It had some damage also. You can see a septic tank here. Debris up in the trees. And I got some video. This is panning around to the neighbor across the street. You can see the house that exploded. Their garage door ended up in this guy's yard across the street. And they're in the process of boarding up all his windows and doors. Everything got blown out. Crazy. The street was littered with glass and debris. That's the neighbor's house. That right side of their house got demolished from the force of the blast. This is in the back. Not a gas leak, Tanton. No gas service in this neighborhood. Brand new house. A family with 2 kids. $800,000 house. They had literally just moved in. I know a lot of people are asking, was it a meth lab? I mean, if you think about the demographics of what we're talking about here, that would appear to me to be very odd. I get why people are wondering that. But in a high dollar neighborhood like this, and from what I understand, just doing my own little research, if the tax records are correct, this gentleman that owns this house is a executive at a tech company, probably not a meth dealer. This is going down the neighbor's driveway. The exploded house is right to the left. But yeah, it's a big mystery. Like, no gas, no propane. It was not an airplane crash. What could have caused this? Purposeful explosion? Explosives, you know? Fertilizer? I don't know. There was a little bit of odd smell in the air, but not the smell of fire, because there wasn't really any fire. So I'm just curious, you know, if y'all are watching, you got any ideas, or if your neighbors, or even if you're watching this later on replay and you have more information, let us know. I'll be keeping an eye on the news. I talked to a lady who lived at the end of this street. I talked to her for a while. She said the explosion cracked her toilet. She's like 10, 15 houses down. It's incredible. I mean, Tanton asking about propane tank. You know, it's not really normal, and none of these other neighbors have propane. You know, the neighbors and even the utility companies have said no gas service in this neighborhood. And the authorities, I think, would have already said it was a gas explosion. The neighbors I talked to are concerned, though, because one guy was telling me, hey, there's been 2 recent other explosions of homes in Austin. I need to go research that. He's like, I'm really worried. You know, now my neighbor's house just exploded and no one can tell me why. I mean, they have had all day. They were on site all day. Fire, emergency, Red Cross, and no updates on root cause. And all we got is a debris pile that is not burnt. So I don't know what to think. Follow the money, dumb money says. Need to look into this executive dude. Yeah, just for privacy reasons, I'm not going to mention his name. The authorities have not released any names, so I'm not going to speculate on that. But from speaking with neighbors and looking at tax records and such, it does match up with what I was able to uncover this morning, that it was a new house and that they had just recently moved in, and they still have their old house in another fancy part of the neighborhood, and that the wife and kids were thankfully still in the old house this morning. I mean, man, a quiet Sunday morning. Thankfully, they weren't all in there, because I don't even know how you survive this. If you could see the devastation even 10 houses away, I don't know how you survive this. Yeah, Anya says too extensive for propane. And I think, Anya, propane tanks are really hard to explode too. And they would be in the backyard, right? This house is exploded on itself. I'm very curious. I'm going to have to obviously follow up on this. When we heard it this morning, I walked out of the house. I was like, huh, that sounded odd. And my first thought, because there's a Tesla dealer right up the street from me, somebody bombed the Tesla dealership. And so I hopped in my car with my camera and went straight there, straight away. And no, there was an ambulance at that stoplight turning away from the Tesla dealership. And so I just followed it. And when we got in the neighborhood, another mile down the road, they didn't even know where to go. That's literally how quickly I got there. The emergency vehicles had no idea. They knew a rough area, a neighborhood, but no smoke. They didn't know which house it was. Dumb Money says chemical caused an explosion. That would be, based on the power of it, to hear it 20 miles away, according to some reports on the news. I would think chemically accelerated explosion. Yes. Just speculation on my part. Tanton says officials say that the home did have propane tanks. Interesting. Well, I have not seen that. Thank you, Tanton. Can a propane tank cause an explosion that devastating? And how the heck does that happen? Normally, your propane tank's outside, right? And you don't have a contained gas buildup. Where is the house, Dawei? It's gone. All that is left is this rubble pile. This is a view from the front. This is the neighbor's house that got caved in. I have photos from several hundred feet away of houses that were caved in, or pieces of them caved in. And you want to see a photo of the back. This is the back of the house. I was looking to see if I could see like what propane tank or anything, but it's hard even to tell from the way the debris field is. It's like a 360-degree debris field from the center of the house. There's as much debris across the street as there is in the backyard. Normally, if you'd have a propane tank, it would be mounted, back here in the back somewhere near the septic or something. In my experience in Texas, I don't know. I don't think you'd put them in the house. And if it was located outside the house, how do you get a 360-degree explosion field? Yeah, Anya says, I can't believe they pulled survivors out of that. I am shocked, Anya. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the gentleman and his family. This was probably the driveway right here, I'm assuming, because you got a trash can here, another one here. I'm assuming the trash cans were at the end of the driveway. And we can see that driveway from the other side. Right here. Here's his car in the driveway. And the house would have been to the left. Brand new construction. I mean, you could look up the address on Google Maps. There's a photo from a year ago. It was a slab. So they literally just finished this house. Tanton says if the line is leaking inside the house. Well, that is a good point, right? If you had propane heat or something, or I don't know. Could have been a leak. Yeah. I guess I could see that. Someone saying maybe on the grill. Hopefully they give us some update. I'm just, I'm thinking that surely, the authorities would know if it was a propane and would have released that information. Robert M. says, did anyone survive? There were 24 houses damaged. I think 6 people transported to the hospital, and 2 of them are critical. 1 came out of this house. 1 came out of the neighboring house to the left. I have not heard of any death casualties yet, but still developing news. Joe says it's wild how America builds wooden homes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, clearly it was stick frame. I don't know what the exterior was. I mean, there's not even really much to see here. If there was limestone, you see the neighbors, this whole neighborhood is limestone clad. It's a stick homes with limestone exterior, but just nothing left. Let's look at the neighbor's house across the street again. All right, that is the next door neighbor. I want the neighbor across the street. Back. Neighbor. Here we go. Now the other houses, all the neighborhood houses in this neighborhood were probably built in the late 70s, I would guess. Maybe some rebuilds and remodels. It's a very expensive neighborhood. A lot, you know, they do tear downs and rebuilds. Diego, how you doing? That was the house directly across the street. And then the other photos I have, some of y'all might have seen them. Some of these made national news this morning. This one is a couple 100 feet away. Front door blown off, windows blown in, garage doors caved in. Front door blown off the hinges. Crazy stuff. No, Tanton, I did not see that about Governor Shapiro's home. Joe, what country are you in, my friend? Arson attack. Oh my gosh. Yeah, what is going on? I'm going to have to research because one of the neighbors told me there have been other recent home explosions in Austin. I was not aware of those, so I'm going to have to do a little more digging on those tonight. I'll make sure I go read about Governor Shapiro and the arson on his home too. Horrible what's going on out there. Diego says, when I stopped by, I thought Tony's property had blown up. My wife started asking me, do we have gas in our house? I was like, yeah, we have gas. This house did not have natural gas, but Tanton said he found a report that there is propane service in this neighborhood. So I need to go double check that. I talked to the neighbors right here in the street and they said, we don't have gas here, so it could not have been a gas. And you would think, you know, that they would have told me, but it could have been propane. You would think they would have told me that, but they were like, we have no idea what this could have been, and that worries us to death. You know, they're logical people. If everyone had propane in their backyard, you would think that they would tell me, well, maybe it was his propane. But they didn't say that. They are concerned. Tanton's saying his family was in the home at the time too. What website are you looking up, Tanton? Trying to pull up any recent news. Let's see what else Yeah. I'm having trouble finding any updates more recent than 5 hours ago. Fox 7 News reported that on the propane. Okay. Fox 7. There was a vehicle fire at the home that collapsed, and fire crews extinguished small spot fires in the collapsed debris as well. That jives with what I saw when I got there. I got there a few minutes after it happened. And yeah, small spot fires would be. There was no visible evidence of fire. Let's put it, no big black smoke, no smell of fire. EMS says total of 6 people were treated in connection with the explosion. 2 people from the collapsed residence are currently listed in critical but stable condition. A 3rd person from the neighboring house is also in critical condition. All right, so that is an update that I didn't see before. 2 people in the house. Texas Gas Service confirmed to Fox 7 Austin that the home did not have natural gas. However, the home did have propane tanks, according to officials. Officials addressed rumors circulating that there was no plane crash. Yeah, there was no plane crash. And the very first reports I saw, like when I got home, back home this morning, I already saw the headlines. Home explodes after standoff with police. There was no standoff with police. Police didn't even know where to go because I was arriving with them. And there's actually video within seconds after this happened of neighbors going on the street, kicking debris out of the way for the first fire truck. Absolutely no police were on site. This was not a standoff. It was not a plane crash. No fire. Neighbors saying all of a sudden my ceiling fell, my ceiling fan fell to the floor. Force of the explosion bent her garage door and shattered windows. I saw that a lot. I mean, seriously, as much as it shook us here, everybody on my street, 2-3 miles away, was in the street trying to figure out what the heck happened. I don't even want to imagine how traumatizing that must have been to be within 100 feet of this. Oh, here's one photo of the oh, come on. I don't want to see an ad. Can't even look at the news these days without looking at an ad. This is the only explosion cloud photo that we have. And since it's white, that to me does not look like a incendiary explosion. I'm not an explosive expert. I'm not trying to pretend I'm one either, but don't those typically have a lot of black smoke and a lot of fire afterwards? Have anybody been around a propane explosion? I don't know. Diana, my house was not affected, no. I think, anybody outside of 200 feet, 10, 15 houses down were affected. Like with physical damage from the shockwave. Everybody in the city heard the explosion. And this is a big city. Joe, what country did you say you're in, Joe? Can we buy insurance? Insurance on these houses? Yep, we can. I'm sure if he had a new build, I'm sure the home is insured. Wood homes are very common in the U.S. because they go up quick. There's a lot of skilled labor to build with wood. And the industry in the U.S. is just designed for that. You can spec and have a home built out of steel and rock, but I mean, it's going to be majorly expensive. More commercial buildings that have the steel studs. I've seen some residential do it, but rarely, just because of cost. Or what are those? Is it steel or aluminum that those metal studs are made out of? We have some, more expensive houses with big spans. They might have a big iron beam. It really just depends. But normal budget under $1 million is just going to be a stick house. You start getting over $1 million, so you might start seeing some more fancier construction. Okay, he's in UK. All right. Anya says something out of the ordinary happened. Something did, Anya. And hopefully they let us know. Hopefully they let us know, Anya. When I went back, I was there around 11:30 this morning. We went back around 7 o'clock this evening. So almost 8 hours had elapsed. And that's when I spoke with the neighbors. There were literally hundreds of people walking by, gawking, taking photos and stuff. And I talked to the neighbors, and after 8 hours, they still had no updates as to root cause. And as I was pulling up around 7 p.m., all the emergency crews were leaving. Anya says, was the COO in the house when it happened? According to the most recent report, Anya, there were 2 people in this house. I had read a report this morning from someone who knew the family that said the wife and the kids were still in the old house. They were in the process of moving to this newly constructed home. Now I'm unsure, who were the 2 people in this house. I don't know. I don't know if it was the executive that is the registered owner of the house, or if it was construction people. Neighbors told me the family had literally just moved in. So, and there's no construction trucks here, just the one car. Joe says, I'm starting to see $1 million homes in the U.S. much differently. Joe, you'd be surprised in Austin because of the massive amount of people moving here. I mean, in this neighborhood, this is across the street from me. In the neighborhood I'm in, I was buying houses here in the 90s in this neighborhood for $180,000, and now they're worth $1 million. So don't let the $1 million price tag make you think that they're fancy. It's just proximity, land, and demand. If you want to live close to town, you're going to pay a pretty penny for it to buy it now. Doesn't necessarily mean that the older houses in that neighborhood are fancy. In fact, like in my neighborhood, a lot of these houses were built in the early 80s. People are buying them, tearing them down, and then putting up mansions, like really fancy, million plus. But it's a $800,000 tear down. They're buying it for the land. Crazy. And pretty much same thing with the houses in this neighborhood. I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. I have friends that live a couple blocks away. Everybody's okay. But it's mostly a big lot. You can see nice big oak trees. Very desirable neighborhood. Great views. Hills. Crazy, crazy stuff. But yeah, Anya, I'd say the property value on a lot like this would be approaching $500,000. That would be my guess, knowing this neighborhood like I do. Of this house that we're looking at on the photo. And then some of y'all were asking about stone and brick construction. Even your houses here, at least where I live, if you're getting a stone or brick house, Joe, it's wood frame. It's a stick house, and then they just clad it. If it's a lower end home, they might put stone or brick in the front only, just cladding, with little tie straps. And if you're in a mid-tier home, you might get front brick or stone with 2/3 of the side. And then if you're in a top-tier home, it's limestone all the way around and a metal or tile roof. There are a few tile roof homes in this neighborhood, but most would be just your standard shingle. Older construction. Anything newer probably in this neighborhood would have a tile roof. Joe says, it's amazing you guys have kept the value versus in the UK. I think it depends on the city, Joe. You could go to Detroit and pick up houses for the price of a postage stamp because everybody's leaving. If it's a city everybody's leaving, real estate's cheap. Austin, we can't keep people out. And people that are coming here are coming with big money from California, New York, Chicago, Florida. And they just drive up the demand, drive up the prices. I mean, if you want an affordable house in Austin now, you're gonna have to move 15, 20 miles away from the city center. We got plenty of land, but you're gonna have to go out to it. You want to live in Austin, it's going to be expensive. Joe says in UK we can still buy houses that are as old as your nation. Yep, I'm aware. That's one thing I love about coming to Europe or UK, Joe, is just to see the different architecture and how people live. It's fascinating stuff. All right, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover tonight. I don't want to go for more than about an hour, and mostly I just wanted to put this up so it can live out there on the internet. And if you guys find more information, or if you're a neighbor that has more information, feel free to drop a comment afterwards, and I will do a follow-up in the comments over the next couple days. I'll pin a comment if we get a root cause. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, best wishes and prayers go out to any victims of this explosion and the families, the neighbors that are having to now rebuild, even like across the street. Luckily, the crews got out here. Every house had a truck in front of it that was like, I don't know, the boarding up company. Maybe was an example of a name that I saw. Just trucks that come out with sheets of wood and board up all your doors and windows like this. You can see they're still working over here on the right. And yeah, amazing that, and lucky that more people were not injured. I did hear that one lady was outside in her yard about 3 houses down and got some shrapnel. But from what I understand, she's okay and being treated at the hospital. It is crazy, Anya. Thank you guys for tuning in. I wish I had a good, happy story to tell, but this is the news today, and it did make national news, so I wanted to share my little piece of the story since I was there this morning right after it happened, and then went back later tonight to get these videos. And for those of you that follow us in the stock market, we'll be around tomorrow morning. Have a blessed night. Be safe. And thank you guys for tuning in.